Hello Internet, welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to try my hand at taking my banana muffin recipe and turning it into a pumpkin muffin recipe. I'm going to start by measuring out all of my dry ingredients together. So that's 200 grams of all-purpose flour. Now I'm going to measure out 5 grams of baking powder. 5 grams of baking soda, and now we'll do 160 grams of sugar, and now just so I can get a weight measurement and have it be small enough on my scale, I'm switching over to pounds and ounces and putting in 0.1 ounces of salt. Any kind of salt will work. And since these are going to be pumpkin spice muffins, I'm going to double the amount of cinnamon to 0.2 ounces. And just for funsies, I like nutmeg, so I'm going to add a little bit of fresh grated nutmeg. Or a lot of it. That was a good bit. Now into a saucepan, I'm going to measure out 80 grams of butter in tablespoons. That's about 6.5 or so. It's okay if it weighs a little bit more now because we're going to melt this down, and then melted butter always sticks to the pan just a little bit, so having a little bit excess so that you have 80 grams of melted butter in the end is a good idea. While my butter's melting on the stove in the saucepan, I got another bowl out, and I'm just going to crack in 1 large egg. Now I have a can of pumpkin, and I know that I need about 325 grams worth of pumpkin. This is not pumpkin pie filling. It doesn't have any extra spices added. It's just pumpkin. That's pretty good. So not quite a whole can, that's about the size of a can of soup of pumpkin. And now I'm just going to whisk these two together. That way if my butter is a little bit hot when it comes off the stove, it's not going to immediately try to cook the egg. Which, as long as you pour slowly enough, that won't happen anyways. But this is just a precaution. That looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to slowly add my butter. All right. And there is my butter, my eggs, and my pumpkin. Now I'm going to whisk my dry ingredients together so that they're a little more evenly distributed. Now that those are combined nicely, I'm just going to make a little bit of a well. You don't have to, but it makes this a little bit easier. I'm just going to add somewhere about 1/3 of my pumpkin mixture. I'm just going to start folding it in a little bit. And make another well. And the reason why I'm going in parts here is just so that I don't get a big poof of flour in my face. Right. Whew. Now I'm just really going to fold the ingredients to combine. I can still see that I'm having a lot of clumps. Oh, that's my oven preheated to 350. That's good. Means I won't have to wait for the oven to preheat while my dough's already made. Alright. And I'm not seeing any flour clumps. I'm gonna cut it a few more times just to make sure. But I also want to try to not overwork it. And that's pretty good. I have washed my hands. Always wash your hands before you start cooking and while you're cooking. Now I've gotten a muffin tin, just normal sized muffin tin. You can go ahead and line it or spray it with your favorite spray oil. I've opted for the latter. And I'm going to use a larger cookie scoop, or whatever kind of scoop you want to call this, so that I try to get my portions fairly even as I scoop them into my muffin tin. I can always go back and level these off later if there's some extra. So I'm just going to use my spoon I used earlier with the pumpkin and just kind of redistribute some. It's okay if they're not all completely even. Now they're ready to pop in the oven. Now, since it's still quite warm out where I live, I've decided to use my small convection oven, and I'm just going to pop these in here and set my timer as soon as I figure out how long to set the timer for. 20 minutes. We'll start there and we'll see how it goes. Now that it's been 20 minutes, I'm just going to pull these out a little bit and prick it with a toothpick or a cake tester or what have you. Just something small to insert into the bread to make sure that it is done. And I don't have anything left on that toothpick, so I'm going to say that these are done. Now that I've waited for about 5 minutes for these to cool to where I can handle them, I'm just going to move them to a cooling rack so that they don't get all sweaty inside of the tin, because that would not be very tasty. Who wants a sweaty muffin? I know I don't. There we go. And I'll check back in later once they're actually cooled off. You always want to make sure you wait for a cake or a bread or a muffin to cool down enough to cut into it, unless it's maybe like a molten lava cake or something like that, just because it gives the internals of the bread time enough to finish cooking. Because you're having that residual heat, it's going to finish on the inside a little bit later than the outside. And once you squish bread, it doesn't really come back from unsquished when it's warm, so you want to make sure it's cool enough to where it doesn't just instantly squish and turn into a matted ball of semi-uncooked dough. Alright, now the muffins had a chance to cool down some, and they look how I want to on the inside, so now I'll just have to give it a taste test to see if this experiment turned out well or not. The flavors are somewhat subtle. I might add a little bit more cinnamon, a little bit more nutmeg next time, but the texture is really good. Now my husband, on the other hand, will probably like these a lot because he doesn't like a whole lot of spices in his pumpkin, and he likes things pretty mild. I think he'll like these. So it's later. I've basically finished editing the video except for the ending where we get to find out what the taste is like for the hubby. Hi, hubby.
See, now I just shoved a bunch of food in my mouth. And I'm supposed to talk about it. I didn't think this through.
No, we did not.
It's really good though.
Not too spicy for the dove.
No. My mom used to make a pumpkin pie that was not very spicy, and these taste a lot like that. So for me, it's kind of like tasting home almost.
Oh,
yeah,
hey.
it's really good.
I did that by accident.
Yeah, no, it's perfect for me. I really like it. I don't like the pumpkin pie or pumpkin muffins or anything like that to be too spicy, so for me, it's delicious stuff.
Thanks, honey.
Mm-hmm.